that we are all very united around the goal, which is to make sure that Hamas can never do this again. The IDF was blamed for an attack on the hospital in Gaza. We are making every effort possible to minimize the impact on civilians in the Gaza Strip. They are not our target. We'll do whatever we can to clear the air in cases where we are being accused falsely. Hamas is very, very closely aligned with Iran. We know that they have received significant funding over the years. Fighting that kind of evil is necessary. We have no choice.
Hello and welcome. You're watching The Wise and the House on Oneindia, and today we are joined by someone who has almost become a household domestic face as far as the Indian setup is concerned, as far as the global setup is concerned. Major Libby Weiss, spokesperson of Israel Defense Forces, better known as IDF. Major Weiss, thank you so much for taking time out from your busy schedule. First things first, how are the people holding up as of now? How are your forces holding up? Because what is happening right now is the world has never seen before.
Well, thank you for that question. I would say that we are feeling two things. One, there is still a huge sense of loss for the more than 1,400 people who were slaughtered just 2 weeks ago, for the hostages. I think there's a real sense of national mourning that will take quite a bit of time. But I would also say that we are all very united around the goal, which is to make sure that Hamas can never do this again. So I would say it's a combination of loss and sadness around those who are no longer with us, and focus and determination around our goal.
Right. If I may ask, what specific objectives does the Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF, want to achieve through this offensive on Hamas?
Well, we need to make sure that Hamas has no capacity to ever do this again, and that Hamas will never be in any kind of position of strength to use the Gaza Strip as some sort of launching pad for acts of terror against Israelis. And that means within their military capacity, that means within their administrative capacity. And we are now looking at a new reality in which they can never, ever do this again.
Right. Civilian casualty is one thing that I presume the IDF has time and again ensured that is minimum or nil. But as the world watches on, there have been instances, especially the Gaza Hospital incident, where there have been fingers pointed at Israel as well. And there has been rebuttal also from your side. Please elaborate on that.
Of course. So the incident that you're mentioning, I think, is an important one to emphasize. This is a case in which the IDF was blamed for an attack on the hospital in Gaza. We provided very clear evidence that shows that it was actually a misfire by Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad. That evidence includes audio of conversations between terrorists talking about this, additional evidence, and of course, other countries have also confirmed that it was not the IDF, including the United States. So I think it's very important to emphasize that this was not a case in which it was an IDF strike. Absolutely not. To the opposite. And in fact, we are making every effort possible to minimize the impact on civilians in the Gaza Strip. They are not our target. They never have been. And we are making many attempts to minimize that impact. And it's very obvious that Hamas isn't, both with our civilians and, of course, with their own.
Right. After October 7th, Major Wise, what has been Hamas's strategy? Because the kind of attack they launched, barbaric at best, terrorist activity that was unfolded on Israel. But now the occasional missiles that have been fired, other than that, is there any intrusion also from the Gaza side into the Israeli territory?
Well, since October 7th, we have seen continued attempts by Hamas to infiltrate into Israeli territory. We do understand that it's possible that there are Hamas terrorists who are still operating within the country. And of course, since October 7th, we've seen Hamas launch over 7,000 rockets into Israel. So their attacks are nonstop. And they are continuing. And that, of course, is their goal. It is to terrorize Israelis, to target Israeli civilians, and to kill as many Israelis as they can.
Major Wise, wars like these are fought on three fronts. First is the battleground where you are there. Second is the diplomatic offensive that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's able leadership is leading with. And the third one is the social media on TV screens, on mobile screens now. All these, barring the military offensive part, the diplomatic and the social media offensive, how is IDF also making its contribution towards that?
Well, of course, our focus is primarily, of course, on the military aspect, and that's absolutely necessary and critical mission that we have, and no one can do that for us. So we are, of course, focused there. But I would say that beyond that, we are, of course, in very close conversations and coordination with our allies on the military level across the globe. And I think when it comes to the diplomatic aspect, we of course want to make sure that we are providing clear, accurate information. You know, when the charges came in about the attack on the hospital, we took it truly as a mission to be sure, to look, to investigate, to understand. And, you know, of course, Hamas put out a statement within about 3 minutes that much of the world accepted as fact. We looked into it. We found the evidence. We did the work. We presented our case. And that is also a very important job, of course, that we have that goes along with our military goals.
Well, absolutely. And Major Weiss, one peculiar aspect that came up, in the last few days, especially after that unfortunate hospital incident, was the fact that disinformation war. Now, this is something that I have been following IDF since morning. There is a time difference between India and Israel, but the time Major General Jonathan starts addressing the media 4 o'clock here or 4:30 India time. I mean, his emphasis has been on fighting the disinformation war. How risky it is as of now, and how crucial it is to actually clear the air amid this whole sort of information sharing.
It's absolutely necessary. It's a matter of accountability. It's a matter of professionalism. Of course, we saw that the claims that Israel was responsible for that strike on the hospital had truly impacts on the ground across the world in protests against Israeli embassies. It's very serious. It goes beyond simply a headline or a post online. And we think it's absolutely necessary that accurate information is reported, and to see so many places run with a Hamas version. I mean, we are talking about a terror organization that doesn't think twice before decapitating children and taking grandmothers as hostages. So of course, they have no qualms about lying to the public. And I think the fact we have to push back against that, and we take responsibility when we need to take responsibility, but we absolutely will do whatever we can to clear the air in cases where we are being accused falsely.
Right. And as far as the battleground is concerned, obviously there are some reports that Hamas used North Korean weapons. I mean, is this just a rumor, or have there been some credible evidence towards it?
So I don't have information to confirm that at the time. What I can say is that we, of course, know that Hamas is very, very closely aligned with Iran. We know that they have received significant funding over the years from Iran. And that is information that I can provide at this time.
Right. Now, one of the critical aspects is obviously the long-term consequences. I presume that more than 500,000 both IDF regulars and the reservists are there at the frontier. Are you looking at a long-term strategy also, and how long maybe this offensive could continue?
Well, certainly from the military perspective, we anticipate that this will take time. We understand we are now 2 weeks in. We understand that this is not a matter of a few days, that it is something that we are preparing both the public and, of course, the military to understand that this will take time.
Right. Also, talking on the offensive part only, there are several partners which have come through, and the time-tested friendship of Israel, UK, the United States. I presume this morning also from the Mediterranean side, the US aircraft carrier shot down some missiles from the Hezbollah side, if I'm not wrong. How are you coordinating and communicating with a foreign team also in this fight against terror?
Well, there are very open lines of communication between Israel, of course, and our allies, especially on the military level. Of course, I don't know to comment in detail on the diplomatic level, but certainly within the military, there are open lines of communication. And I think beyond that, the support that we're seeing is clearly a statement that our allies are making, which is that the reality of what took place on October 7th, with 1,400 people killed, with hundreds of hostages, thousands of people injured, this is not a reality that any country on earth would want to accept. Nobody could accept this as just a normal occurrence, an acceptable occurrence. And I think the support that we're getting is a very strong voice in saying that Israel certainly should not stand under terror, and nor should any other country.
Right. Major Wise, one final question before I let you go. Obviously, the moment this attack happened, the world media was very quick to actually equate it with 9/11. But back here in India, we had a similar incident of 26/11, and that was the reason why Prime Minister Modi was quick also to express his condolences to Benjamin Netanyahu also. At this time of the need, I was there during the Mumbai attacks, covering it from the ground and from the newsrooms also. The messaging to the people is very important, especially from the defense forces. From your side, from the IDF side, to the people of Israel and to the people of the world, what is your message as of now?
I think you bring up a very good point. And I think the level of loss here is one that we in Israel certainly feel. We're a very small country.
Yes.
The degrees of separation between your average person and a victim of what happened on October 7th, of a hostage, of somebody injured, is very, very small. We all feel very connected to what took place. We are all devastated, and we're all very united. And we understand that fighting terrorism, fighting that kind of evil is necessary. We have no choice. Our survival is dependent on it. And that is absolutely
Right.
what people do within the military.
Major Libby Weiss, thank you so much for speaking to us. And our thoughts and prayers are there. We always wish Israel the very best and safer and peaceful days ahead. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you.
Subscribe to One India channel and never miss an update.